What's going on, everybody? This is Randall Barnes, the founder of HBCU Pulse and the host of HBCU Pulse Radio on SiriusXM, in the building for another special video on today, where we are, of course, continuing our coverage of College Hill. Episode 4 is on the horizon. We're almost at mid-season as the cast is at midterms. That is something else. So we're going to go on and get into it. I want to let you all know that we are doing interviews with some of the season 3 and season 4 members of College Hill, Virginia State, and College Hill, Virgin Islands. We did an interview, our second interview with Ray Cunningham from season 3. Y'all know Ray, he's such an ambassador for College Hill. And we spoke with Rodney and Bianca from College Hill, Virginia State. So make sure to go check that out. We have a big interview with Willie Mack, the man who you see in all of the commercials. He's from College Hill, Virgin Islands. We have him coming up really soon, to make sure to stay tapped in for that. So let's talk about episode 4. So we start episode 4 with a direct continuation of what we saw last week. So Dr. Petty pulled up to the cast house to see why New York, Jocelyn, and Ray J didn't make it to class. And she's greeted at the door by Amber, who lets her in, and Amber is like, Dr. Petty, like, what's she here for? And everyone had that same reaction. And I think that was a reaction that all of us had watching it at home months later. So Dr. Petty sees Ray J first, who was sleep. And I said it right. He was sleep in his room. Like, he was that type of sleep where you go to sleep in the afternoon thinking you're going to take a nap and you don't wake up till 1 o'clock in the morning. Trust me, if you're in college, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, you thinking you're going to go to the function at night on campus or off campus, and you like, man, I had a long day. Let me just get some rest. You wake up. It's time for you to go to class, man. You went to sleep. Like, Ray J looked as if he was super duper tired, but it might have been because he was hungover from the night before. So Dr. Petty literally came into the room. Amber opened the door, and then Dr. Petty just stared at him and waited for him to wake up as they were calling his name. And then Ray J woke up, came to his senses, and was shocked that Dr. Petty was in there. And Dr. Petty tells Ray J, listen, I'm gonna give you some time to get yourself together so we can talk. And they speak, and Dr. Petty tells Ray J that he can't miss any more courses, and if he does, he'll get dismissed from the university. Now, it's worth noting that Dr. Petty said the exact same thing that I said in the last recap, that Ray J's words need to line up with how he's moving, because Ray J's saying all these grandiose things in the confessional about how he wants to take things seriously and how he really wants to get this certificate, but he has to show us. Like, missing all these classes and goofing off when you're in class is just not the move, and that's not how you get your education. So Ray J tells Dr. Petty, this is all moving too fast. I just got here. And they actually really did just get there. But Dr. Petty responds to him and says, but you just got here and you've been gone a lot. And she paused and said, a lot. And I'm not even gonna lie, I just started laughing hysterically because Dr. Petty was telling the truth. And I think that she was the voice of reason that was speaking for the audience that's seeing Ray J in this experience once again take it for granted, just like he did at Texas Southern. And you got to understand this, y'all. This year, and I don't think it was the same way last year, but this year it's a 4-week program, and Ray J missed basically the whole entire week. He only seemed to have come there on Monday. He did orientation, he did the civil rights course, he did the first acting course. I think he was there like for literally a day or two, then he dipped out. He wasn't there Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, and he didn't go to the museum. So like, this, it's a 4-week program, and you miss multiple days in that first week. I don't know how you really can truly recover from that. So Dr. Petty recalls an off-camera conversation with Ray J where he said that he has to get an A because he'll feel as if he failed if he got a C. And Dr. Petty said the only A's that Ray J is getting is absence and lack of accountability. And I'm like, Dr. Petty is a star. Like, hats off to Dr. Petty. She is TV gold. She was made for this. And I honestly think, bro, y'all gotta get Dr. Petty on the other editions of College Hill Celebrity Edition, because we already know y'all are gonna do more of them. But y'all gotta get Dr. Petty herself or a Dr. Petty style advisor, administrator to really be on these celebrities, because they're gonna come in playing games, and they need to know that y'all are not gonna play games at our HBCUs, and y'all are really in college. But Dr. Petty says that she believes in him and that she's trying to be his biggest cheerleader for him getting his education, but he's making it hard for her with him not applying himself. And she dropped some bars when she said this. Like, she said a line. She said, how can you come to this HBCU where a few miles away, our ancestors were bought and sold and act like it's meaningless to you? And that just, man, that took me aback, because I was laughing, at, man, you missed a lot. You ain't been here for long, but you missed a lot. But then she says that, and I'm like, that is the brilliance of going to an HBCU. Because when you go to an HBCU, you have that extra motivation of going to an institution that was built by and for our ancestors, that was meant to enrich freed slaves and help them get a leg up in society. And when you look at the beautiful history of our HBCUs, it just motivates you that, man, I don't want to let my family down, but at the same time, I don't want to let my ancestors down because they didn't get the same opportunities that we did. And I think another big thing too is we go to an amazing school like Fort Valley State University or Alabama State. Like, it's so many amazing alumni and students that became successful in their careers that sat in the same seats you sat in. Like, they walked the same campuses and halls that you walked. They lived in the same dorms you lived in. They ate in the same cafe that you ate in. And now they're millionaires, and they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're actors, they're actresses, they're radio personalities, they're on TV, they're politicians, they're business people. So when you're at your institution and you want to chase your dream, what I used to do all the time is I look at the successful alumni that Fort Valley had and how I wanted to be in that number, and I wanted to be the person that would inspire the next generation. So I think that for your traditional student, we look at the history of the school and the students that went to the school for that level of motivation. And I think that there's a disconnect because the celebrities are already successful. Like, they've already achieved a level of fame. So they're looking more so at their families and trying to prove to their families that they can do it. And Dr. Petty really hit on that, because she reminded him that he has a son that's looking up to him and watching his every move. And it feels as if, just like with Jocelyn in episode 2, that struck a nerve with him. And Ray J said, although he wanted to go back to sleep, he actually felt ashamed and wanted to get himself back on track. Ray J then says, and I totally disagree with this, that no one has ever cheered him on and that Dr. Petty supports him, but no one else has. And I'm like, Ray J, bro, you are capping. Like, that is cap. Like, why are you lying? Like, why are you playing on Amber's top like that? Like, you don't even have to look back at his family. I could bring up Brandy. I could bring up all the other folks, Princess, all the other folks that's really rocking with him. But why are you going to play on Amber's top like that? Like, Amber had been waking you up, making sure you're on top of your work, trying to make sure you're on time for class. And she even taught you how to use the washing machine. So that's not support, Ray J? But all right, whatever. Whatever, Ray J. But Dr. Petty reiterates to Ray J that he has one last chance, and Ray J said it's unlike last time. I'm like, Ray J, like, this is a powerful scene. Dr. Petty got you together. She stole the show, and now you're doing these contradictions and acting like you don't realize what's going on in front of you. You have support from Amber, and you had multiple chances at Texas Southern. Because we got to remember that, like I said, I think this season, the program itself is shorter, because I honestly think they had a little bit longer at Texas Southern during that spring semester, because it just seemed longer. It was still 10 episodes. We saw 10 episodes of content, but it just seemed longer because we saw each week that they got a grade, and you saw the grade that they got on the screen. Now, it might be the same length, but when you saw the grade on that screen for the class that they're taking, like, it sort of was a wake-up call that, man, you failed these classes and you're upset about it. You're going to talk to the professors, but you weren't there for these classes. You didn't present your business final. You were getting into it with the professor. You know what I mean? So, like, you had, like, chances last year, but you didn't take advantage of them, and then you plagiarized on the last assignment. Like, that was literally the final exam that was between you graduating from Texas Southern from that program. So it wasn't like, oh, just try it again, do it again. First, that's not how life works. And second, they couldn't because the semester was over. Like, that's like me, like, bombing on a test or plagiarizing something, and it's like literally it's May the freaking 5th and graduation is May the 8th. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, dude, like, I gotta turn turn in grades soon. I can't give you another test. You failed. And that's how it is in college. So Ray J, I guess he doesn't understand that, man, we don't always get another chance in life, and you definitely don't always get another chance in college. So the fact that Ray J is here says a lot, and he really just needed to take it seriously. But later on, we saw a montage of Ray J getting his act together, and we saw him have a one-on-one with Mr. Martin and apologize to him for not taking his class seriously enough. He then goes to the Equal Justice Initiative Legacy Museum on his own, and you saw him have the same reaction that the other cast members had, just seeing their history just so plainly laid out in front of them, how black folks were really done wrong and where we came from, and like how Dr. Petty said, the hollow grounds that they walk on at Alabama State. And we also see him practicing the alma mater so he can perform it in Dr. Petty's class, because Dr. Petty gave him another opportunity to get in front of the class and perform it. And Ray J sang the alma mater, like he hit a little harmony at the end, and the cast members and the other classmates, like they were just out there just cheering. And I'm like, you know what, Ray J, I rock with you, bro, because you have redeemed yourself for that versus. That versus. Like, if y'all remember, he was a part of the pre-show. Like they did like a group versus, and Ray J was a part of it, and he was singing One Wish, and Ray J was all off key, and Ray J can really for real sing. Like One Wish is really the song. And then he did my favorite song from Ray J. It wasn't his song. It was New Boy's Tie Me Down. Back when I was in middle school, that song came out 2009. That's my favorite Ray J hook song outside of One Wish. So Ray J really is talented, and Ray J really can sing. But that left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, when they heard him butcher his own song. So it seems like he's getting back in that harmony, because this is months after the verses, and he sounded really good singing the alma mater. So shout out to Ray J, and I gotta shout him out once again for getting his act together, because this is all he had to do. Take this seriously, get the certificate, and just do what you need to do and go home. It's a 4-week course. It's not like you have to stay from August to December like the rest of us had to, or August until May like everybody else has to. You're here for 4 weeks, and you missed half the first week. You got 2.5 weeks left at this point. Do your work, get the certificate, and just move on. That's all I'm saying. And that's all I wanted from Ray J. I've been going in on how Ray J's been acting the past couple recaps, but hopefully between now and the rest of the season, he gets his act together. So let's go back to Dr. Petty's surprise pop-up at the house. So we then see that she asked to speak with New York, who is hiding from Dr. Petty like she's a 7-year-old that brought home an F on the report card. The phone's about to get taken. Give me your phone. You got an F. Give me your phone. You try to avoid it. So that was how New York was acting. And I'm like, bro, you're 41. You're 41, and you know what you did was wrong. So go and face the music. And she eventually did. And it wasn't that bad, because New York has been perfectly fine. She's attended every class. She's been acting a little bit wild, especially those first couple episodes. But New York and Jocelyn have been in every class, and they just missed this one. And typically, when you're in school, like I said, you get 2 to 3 unexcused absences. So this could happen depending on who your advisor is, or who your professor is. I don't think your advisor is going to pull up in your dorm room to see what's up with you, but your professor or your advisor might feel a way if you're missing class, especially in the circumstance that you need to be in class, you need to be on top of your stuff. But you typically have, your absences that you get the opportunity to use if you're not able to come in, if you're not feeling well. But, New York was like, hey, I'm serious, and I just missed this, and I was sick. And then Dr. Petty said, I got you. Things happen. But just know, if you keep missing classes, you are going to be dismissed from the university. That is Dr. Petty's, that's her go-to catchphrase. If you do XYZ, you're going to be dismissed from the university. Don't play with me. We will dismiss you. We will kick you out of here. And New York heard it loud and clear. She left that room like she saw a ghost. I can tell you what, New York ain't going to miss another class. She putting the bottle down. She ain't gonna be turning up no more. She is going to not miss another class, because she's got the fear of God when she talked to Dr. Petty. But Dr. Petty tells New York that she wants to see Jocelyn. So New York goes to Jocelyn's room and knocks on the door a couple times. Jocelyn does not answer, and we see a hidden cam in her room where Jocelyn is sleep, just like Ray J was. But Jocelyn was at sleep where you don't hear anything. Like, she was like deep sleep. So New York goes and tells Dr. Petty that she knocked on the door and Jocelyn's not answering. And then Dr. Petty goes over and thinks her knocking on the door gonna make her get up. It's like Jocelyn's, Dr. Petty opened up and Jocelyn still ain't opened up. So Dr. Petty was clearly upset, and she told Amber to let Jocelyn know that she came by to see her and that Jocelyn needs to talk to her ASAP. So Amber then calls Jocelyn and lets Jocelyn know that Dr. Petty came by and wants to talk to her. And then Jocelyn was like, for real? Like, she really came by. Like, everybody was shocked, and we all were shocked, like I said. But two things to note from this. Number one, Jocelyn even sleeps aggressively. Like, I don't know if y'all peeped that. Like, Jocelyn sleep like she fighting folks in her dream. Like, that is an aggressive woman. Like, that is a woman that clearly likes to fight. Like, she sleeps aggressively, man. Number one. And I want to say she was also very dismissive of Dr. Petty in the confessional. And I heard her say something that really gave me a cause for pause and a cause for alarm. She says that she has to respect Dr. Petty, not that she does. And maybe I might be nitpicking, because I think maybe in some of this stuff, when I listen back, I'm like, you know what, Randall, you might be nitpicking. You might just be bringing this up a little bit too much. But I just think that from what Dr. Petty has done, especially for Jocelyn, and how she was there for Jocelyn, and they probably had off-camera conversations, you know, and she went and talked to Jocelyn when Jocelyn felt as if the whole entire world was against her, and she leveled with Jocelyn and showed Jocelyn a lot of love and support. That doesn't earn Dr. Petty at least some level of transactional respect. Like, I'm not saying you got to fight for her, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that, man, like, you got to respect her because of her position and not what she's done for you. I mean, because I think that you should respect Dr. Petty out the scope of her position, because, like, she really is trying to make sure y'all are good. So I just didn't really care for that. And I think that might be planting a seed for what's coming up next when Jocelyn and Dr. Petty eventually have to talk about some things after some things happen. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. So after Dr. Petty leaves, we see Quay have a moment as he admits that it's hard trying to balance school and trying to go after performing with the drum majors during the upcoming Magic City Classic. Later on in the episode, we see Quay practicing with the drum majors for the performance. And it's so interesting that we're seeing Quay, and Parker is too, but we don't see a lot of Parker really balancing both in this episode. We see more of Quay really going through rigorous practices, but Quay is walking that fine line and doing that delicate song and dance that student leaders have to achieve when they're in college, because a lot of folks don't talk about student leadership. Like, I always say this, like, that's the one thing that we haven't really seen in media. Like, we've seen Greek life, we've seen band life, we've seen the football players and the boom of modern HBCU football, but we haven't seen a real spotlight and emphasis on student leaders, the Royal Court, the SGA members, the Greeks in a different way that's not just strolling, the band. Like, these are student leaders that essentially work a job that normally does not pay them. They do it because they love the school, because they want to volunteer for the school, they want to operate in service, and they want to help the school, like, and promote the school. Like, that's what the band does. Like, the band is the biggest ambassador for an HBCU often. You know, so oftentimes when you see these band members and these SGA members and these football players and these Royal Court members, like, they have to walk that fine line of being a student because you're at your HBCU to get an education, but also handle your responsibilities with excellence outside of class. And then on top of that, you have to try to balance a semblance of a social life within that. And especially if you're in the band, like, you don't normally get that. Like you don't get that at all, because typically what's going on is that you're always practicing. Like, you're practicing to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, the band members that you march with, like, those are your friends. Those are the folks you talk to. Like, those are the folks you confide in, because you normally never have the time to really go out in the yard and really experience that college life that everyone else does. You know, so Quay is seeing a little semblance of that. And I honestly have to tip my hat to him, because he's really given us the real. because that is what student leaders have to go through all the time. And you have to look at it like this, because a lot of student leaders still lead their class. They're doing 50 million different things. They're a part of 8, 9 different organizations. They're orientation leaders. They're ambassadors. They're part of a Greek organization. They're football players. There are some folks that serve in SGA and they're football players too, or they serve in SGA and they're basketball players. They serve on Royal Court and they run track. And they still have a 4.0. They still have a 3.5. So like that's a salute to those students that are traditional college students and handle their business in and out the classroom. So I really think that Quay was very relatable, and I really did enjoy that from Quay. I didn't really, like I said, I didn't really put a lot of notes about Parker being a stingette. They had practice. Parker still isn't getting it. I wonder what's going to happen at the Magic City Classic. I don't know if she's going to just miraculously get it when she's thrown out there into the pressure of being at the biggest classic in America. But, you know, we're going to see what happens, because she's going to get a starring role, because the Magic City Classic is going to be covered next episode. So we're going to talk about her more. But this one was more about Quay and him getting prepared, because we didn't see a lot of Parker getting prepared. So next up, we see the cast go to African American literature, and they get their next assignment, which is based off of Paul Laurence Dunbar's poem, We Wear the Mask. And a fun fact, this is my mom's favorite poem. She's been an educator for over half my life. I can't even tell you when she started teaching, because she was off and on for a little bit, and then she just started doing it for like a decade plus straight. She started at the high school and college level, and in everything that she does, We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar is a part of whatever she's doing. So it was amazing seeing the celebrities really get a chance to interface with this poem, because I think it's powerful about how we wear a mask and we hide ourselves, you know, and that's something that, you know, really goes deep for me, because this ain't about me, but I want to just say that, like, that even hits on, you know, the removal of the mask by Daryl Coley. That's a big song that I listened to a lot as I was growing up to help me into growing who I've become, you know. So I think that this is an amazing basis for an assignment. And they got the assignment of doing a presentation in which they bring in an example of a mask that they wear that hides who they really are. And not like an actual mask. It could be an actual mask, but it was like a metaphorical mask, you know, like whether it was like something material or anything like that, you know. And I think the celebrities, oh my God, like this year, like last year, the celebrities did a good job and they were good in class. But this year, these celebrities are eating these assignments up. Like, they're doing an amazing job. Like, if it was me and I was the professor, like, all of them would be getting an A, because they did the presentation like later on. And then like New York brought up her I Love New York chain from back in the day. And she used that chain to explain the difference between Tiffany and New York, which I thought that was powerful. Parker, which is our favorite cast member, said that her smile is her mask, which hides the pain that she goes through. Powerful. We then see Orion say that his locks are his mask. And we didn't get a chance to see Orion really go in depth about why, because they sort of cut to the confessional and then they moved on. But I thought that that was powerful. Amon said that basketball and the popularity that comes from it is his mask, which I thought that was powerful. But then we get to some really, really good ones. Jocelyn goes on a very interesting dialogue about how the material and expensive things that she owns, such as a $20,000 purse that she pulled out in class, isn't indicative of who she is. I thought that was amazing. And I really, like, Jocelyn really was the MVP. It was between Jocelyn and Amber for this episode, because they were really digging in. They were being very introspective. You have Ray J that brings a literal mask to the class, but he says he wears it when he's turning up. And he almost says, like, when he's turning up, it's a different version of him that's not naturally himself. And I thought, you know what, Ray J, I'll accept that. You get an A too. Because, like, I'm like, are you joking? Are you serious? But I think that Ray J did take it seriously, and he brought an actual mask. So I guess points for that. You brought an actual mask that you wear that hides who you really are. So Quay says that his wig he wears as his character TT is his mask. And oh my gosh, I'm like, hey, Quay, you're going there. I love it. I love it. He says that it hinders him from being his true, authentic, 100% self. He says that he hides behind the character and he didn't realize it until the assignment. Man, These celebrities were eating this assignment up, and I love the fact that they were forced to really dig deep inside themselves and be introspective. But to me, Amber took the cake. She stole the show. She put up some provocative pictures of herself on the board, and she says that she over-sexualizes herself. She goes deeper into how her perception of herself relative to how people perceive her is her mask. And she talks about the story of how she started dating Kanye and a picture was taken of her that was taken out of context. And then people started saying a bunch of inflammatory stories about her, and she wanted to own it. She was being called all these different names. And she said, yep, I am that. Let me act like one. Let me claim and own the narrative since I want to put this on me. And that caused hurt for her because she's not this person that people are making her to be. And I'm like, well, I almost felt like just getting up and clapping when I was watching. Like literally, because I'm like, this is what I want from the celebrities. Because yeah, the entertainment factor is cool. Like, yeah, it's the intrigue around them getting into it. But if I want to see celebrities and reality TV stars fight, I just watch Love and Hip Hop and probably the season with Jocelyn on it, because I know she probably fight somebody on there. Like, but I really wanted to see these celebrities grow and undergo the same type of growth that we all do when we're in college. And I was just so fulfilled by seeing this assignment. It was amazing. And honestly, for me, as someone that is from the HBCU side and not the reality TV side, for me, this was my favorite part of the season. So after the presentation, we see them get instructions on their various midterm assignments for the different classes. And man, they were going to class for real, for real. Like they had multiple midterms. Like they really were outside and really were like doing this work. So in African-American lit, they have to split into groups. They can write and perform a neo-slave narrative or folklore. In the civil rights class, they have to write a 1 to 2 page paper where they're supposed to take everything that they learned in the past 2 weeks and write about an important person or organization in civil rights history and make it connect to their lives personally. And New York heard 1 to 2 pages and she was like, what? This is too much. And she says that writing 1 to 2 pages is ridiculous. And I honestly hope, because I saw that there were some traditional Alabama State students like that were already on campus. Like I saw that some of them came over to the house and they were a part of the different groups that they were in. I hope that some of those students put her up on game about how if you're writing a paper, you double space it. Maybe you could do it like a little larger double space that's a little bit slight to make where you don't have to write as much. You know, upscale the font a little bit, 13.5, 14. And if you have to print it, when you look at, you know, a paper and it's 13.5, 14 font and you double space it a little bit larger, not as much, it don't look like it. It looks like a normal paper. I hope somebody put New York up on game because she was struggling with this. And I think that 1 to 2 pages is very fair because I'm pretty sure that in the Dr. Robinson's class, I'm pretty sure that the students probably have to write 5 to 10 page paper, like on the stuff that they learn for the actual midterm. So the fact that I got to write just 1 page or 2 pages, man, y'all are lucky. Like, come on. But just in case, like C's do get degrees. So just in case, somebody put New York up on that because she's been doing a really good job. So in French, they have to recreate a normal morning conversation with the partner in French, which is actually a very standard assignment that foreign language teachers have you do. It's not just for French. In Spanish, in French, and other foreign language courses that you do, even in high school, that is a very normal assignment. And it sounds easy, but you really got to understand the language to do it fluently. And man, it depends on who your professor is or your teacher is. They'll grade you hard if you don't get it. So in acting class, they have to improvise a job interview, and someone has to serve as a supervisor and someone has to serve as the person trying to get the job. And the person that's the supervisor, based on the performance, has to determine if they're going to hire the person and has to be entertaining and compelling. And I feel like that could really be fun. But that's a lot of work, and the celebrities were not with it. They were struggling for sure. A perfect example was Amber making this interesting comment where she basically says how college is incredibly rigorous and she understands why traditional college students don't get themselves done up for class all the time and they just go in sweatpants and sweatshirt, a hoodie. Like, you got the school sweatshirt on, like they don't put on makeup. They just go in there that 8 a.m. class, get what they need to do, and they leave. And Amber is not wrong at all, especially if you have an 8 or 9 o'clock class and God forbid, you have a 7 o'clock class. A lot of folks, they don't care. They might come to class in their bonnet on because it's like, man, I'm going right back to sleep after this class. I'm walking back to my dorm or I'm getting in my car and I'm going back to wherever to go to sleep. And there have been points in times I had like an 8 o'clock or a 9 o'clock and I just go to the library, go all the way to the back on the 3rd floor and take a real quick nap. If it was cold outside, I put my coat over me so nobody would be looking and taking pictures, and I would go to sleep because it do be pretty early, I must admit. Like when it's early, you got to go to them early classes. Your goal is to get the assignment, get the grade, and leave. Now, granted, I wasn't one of those students that would dress all crazy just to go get that grade and leave, because I wouldn't go back to my dorm until like later on in the day because I'm always moving around. I had other classes. I'm socializing on campus, politicking on campus, doing a whole bunch of other stuff. So I didn't really get the opportunity to do that. However, I do understand the struggle. I do understand that 1,000%, but I need people to also understand HBCU culture. And while Amber is correct about folks just putting on whatever when it's those early classes, around like I would say 11, 12, 1 p.m., you're going to see the yard turn into a fashion show. Like, don't get it twisted. Now, some folks might still be walking around in some sweatsuit in the bummy fit, but man, 11, 12, 1 p.m., you see a whole bunch of Jordans, whole bunch of nice clothes, like people putting it on, especially when it's time for lunchtime. It is a fashion show, like 1,000%. So do not let that fool you at all if you're not familiar with the HBCU experience, although Amber was correct. So another one of my favorite scenes happened in Mr. Martin's class, where they had to do a one-on-one with him and present their metaphor assignment. So in their assignment, they had to choose a metaphor that symbolized the conflict that they've been going through in their life. And once again, like I said, Amber and Jocelyn are the real MVPs. They stole the show. Amber says that her life is the metaphor. She talks about her tough childhood in which she grew up without her dad, who would cry because he was missing her childhood. And Mr. Martin asks who cries for her now, in which she says that she cries for herself. And that caused her to tear up, and she put her sunglasses over her eyes. And I made the observation that I think that another mask that Amber uses to hide how she really feels is those shades, because she has those glasses on all the time. And she does take them off. I'm not saying she always has them on, but I do particularly notice that she has them on in those moments in time in which she might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but that might just be me looking at things differently. Let me know in the comments if I'm just looking at it too deep, but I do think that she hides her eyes, and you can see a lot of pain and hurt in folks' eyes, and she hides her eyes, and it's almost like she's hiding herself from the world. And I honestly thought that that was really powerful. And the fact that she, was looking eye to eye with Mr. Martin with not having the glasses on until she started crying, I thought that that was powerful, and it does really seem as if she's very comfortable with Mr. Martin. So Jocelyn says the metaphor for her life is her struggle. She talks about living in the slums of Puerto Rico without money and her father not being in her life because he died of an overdose when she was younger. She said her mother told her about him passing away when she was young, and that's something that she doesn't talk about often, and it really hurts her because she wanted her father in her life and wanted him to be there and wished he was there. And we're really seeing the hurt that Jocelyn operates with. Like, I think that this is the root of why she's very aggressive, why she's always so confrontational, why she's always fighting. This is the hurt that she's operating in. This is the hurt that she hasn't healed from. And I don't know, honestly, if she'll ever be able to heal from that, but this is the hurt that she operates in. Like, I totally believe that Jocelyn is an entertainer. She knows what she needs to do to entertain people and be the main character of any reality TV series that she's a part of. But I think that there's a deeper aspect and sense into which how she carries herself and the bravado in which she carries herself. And I believe that it goes deep into just what she went through in her childhood, because I think that a lot of who we are, all of us, good or bad, is based on how we were raised and how we were as children, because we're all just big children. That's all we are. So I think that was something that was powerful in which we saw from Jocelyn, what she was saying to Mr. Martin. And she also said this, I thought this was interesting. She said that she wasn't saying all this stuff for attention or sympathy, but to help young girls that are going through the same thing as her. And I love that from Jocelyn. I love that from her, because I think that Jocelyn wants to be someone that folks can look up to, especially her child. I think that she wants to be someone that folks look up to, but I think she gets in her own way with how she carries herself. And I'm sorry I have to keep foreshadowing this, but we all know it's coming. Every episode, we get closer and closer to that fight with Amber and Jocelyn that we would assume happened. And it's sad we have to eventually see it, because it seemed as if both of them were really getting a lot from this experience. Now, granted, this probably happened in week 3 of their 4-week session. So I'm guessing they didn't miss too much, and maybe they might get a chance to come back in, the spring semester. They came back and did what they needed to do for that week, and then they were good. But I just think it's sad because they were laying it all out on the table, and Amber was a really good student, and honestly, Jocelyn was too. So I hate that happened to him, and it just gets more and more sad, because at first I was intrigued by the fight, but now I'm like, they really were giving it up. Like, they really were into this. They really were doing what they needed to do, especially Amber, who did not miss a class, and you saw her start to open up more. From us finding out she was an atheist to then her opening up and smiling more and showing her eyes more and really becoming more vulnerable in those classes. Like, I really just Amber's been started to become my MVP and really my second favorite cast member, but it's harrowing to know that she's not going to be here probably for the rest of the season. One more thing about the fight. So Jocelyn was on Drink Champs and she talked about the altercation, and now she doesn't openly say that she got into it with Amber, but we know she got into it with Amber. Like, I don't know when this was recorded, but it's clear that she got into it with Amber. We all know that. And everything about what she was saying on Drink Champs is lining up to tell us that it was an actual fight. And my hope that it was all just an elaborate prank is out the window, because she broke down in the interview that it happened in the African-American lit class. Amber came for her, which we saw that in the trailer, and Jocelyn alleges that she beat Amber down. Moving on. We see Jocelyn talk to Dr. Petty after Dr. Petty missed seeing her in the house when she stopped by. And there wasn't really anything too big for me to react to or report on. It was a pretty standard conversation that we literally saw her have with Ray J in New York. And Jocelyn had been coming to class. So that wasn't Jocelyn's problem. Jocelyn was in class. The problem was how she was interacting with the other cast members. So it wasn't too much of a big thing. Dr. Petty just reiterated the same thing that she did to New York. But I'm pretty sure that really soon, Jocelyn and Dr. Petty are going to have a very different conversation. Now, if we'll be privy to that on the show, if the cameras will be filming for that conversation after she fights Amber, we'll see. But I'm pretty sure Dr. Petty and Jocelyn had another conversation where Jocelyn saw that Dr. Petty doesn't play. So we get a surprise pop-up from Omarion. Yes, Orion's brother, Omarion, who comes over to do a meditation session with some of the members of the cast. I don't think that Jocelyn was there. I think everybody was there but Jocelyn. And I might be tripping. She might have been there the whole entire time and I didn't see her. But I saw Amon, I saw Parker, I saw Quay, I saw Ryan, I saw Tiffany. Of course, we saw Amber and Ray J, who got up, from the meditation that they did. But I did not see Jocelyn, so maybe she wasn't there. But of course, we see New York thirsting over the both of them, because it's clear with that white fiance at home, she wants one of the Broners. She wants one of them. And I'm clearly she's going to get at Orion at this point. And we're going to see that probably come up really soon. But it was almost like Orion put him in a trance or something. They were just knocked out on the floor. They literally were not moving. I guess that meditation was deep, put him in a trance. But Amber and Ray J eventually got up, and they're like, man, we hungry, man. Are they done yet? They still in there? They walked out just looking in through the window man, we ready to eat. What's up? And I'm like, that probably would have been me. I probably was looking out hey, y'all can meditate. This is all good and all. This is great to cleanse ourselves, but at the same time, I'm hungry. That'll make me feel better if I got something to eat. So next we see New York and Quay talking, and they have a very powerful conversation where I think New York gives it up real once again. And she talks about how she never was really all that great at school. It seems as if she really wants to get the certificate and she's really trying her best. And I have to acknowledge, because I was, going in on New York for how she was acting the first couple of episodes. Like, she did aggravate me, but I think that she's calmed down since then. Now, when I did my video with I Had Digital Quay, I alleged that maybe she calmed down because she was trying to impress Orion, but I was just joking. I don't think that's why. Like, I just think that New York understands the severity of this experience, and she's trying to take it in for what it is. And she basically said that in this scene. So I thought that that was incredibly powerful, and it sort of informs her getting into it with Ray J and her like not liking the fact that Ray J and Jocelyn were playing around when they were trying to do their final exams. Like, I think that informed that, and that might also inform what we saw in the preview of her and Ray J getting into it, if they actually in fact did get into it. But I think that New York is really trying, and I really appreciate that from her. So we get to the end of the episode and we see the cast members reluctantly getting up for school. Even my girl Parker, who was beaming and just ready. I'm ready. Like SpongeBob. During that second episode, even when like Jocelyn kicked her out the room, like she was still ready to go to school. She was like, man, I'm ready. Let's get it. And now she's like, oh my God, I got to go to school. But trust me, Parker, I know how that feels. But they're heading to campus to Mr. Martin's class, and they're getting ready to head on the van. And Ray J looks and he sees that he don't know where his phone is. Like, he's like, where's my phone? Where I can't leave without my phone. So he's trying to find his phone. So we see Quay, Orion, New York, and Amon head to the first van to go on and get to campus and wait for them on campus in Mr. Martin's class because they wanted to get there on time. So we saw Jocelyn, we saw Parker, we saw Amber, and we saw Ray J left behind as Ray J's trying his best to find his phone. Come to find out, it was on his nightstand the whole time. Now, I can't say too much about Ray J in that scenario because I've done that before, and I think we all have done that before, but it was an impediment to progress because this is midterms and professors do not play about midterms, and this caused Parker, Amber, Ray J, and Jocelyn to be late. So because of that, like Amon and New York, and you got Orion and Quay, like they think they on top of it, they ready to go, they lagging behind. But to be honest, they can't do anything because this is a group assignment. I don't know what they thought. So you can't just present the group assignment yourself. You have to have your partner there. And if your partner isn't there, you get it incomplete. And man, they were in that classroom sick because they were like, man, like they trying to call them, like where they at so they can get this assignment. And then you have Mr. Martin that says, all right, now they got a few more minutes. If they don't come in, y'all are going to get an incomplete. And then the episode ends on that cliffhanger. But I want to just say, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not. We see in the trailer that they made it. So I don't know like if it was some swerve that happened, but they made it and we go from there. But overall, this was a very smooth episode that I consider the calm before the storm, because I think we start to see the dissension between Amber and Jocelyn, because it seems like Quay really does get into it with Jocelyn this time around when Jocelyn says something, and then Quay gets mad at Amber and Amber leaves because Amber just has all this drama going on and Jocelyn's doing too much. I think that really does happen. So we're going to see that coming up. But this episode was really smooth. Like this was like a very positive episode. We saw a lot of schoolwork. So all the folks that were saying there's not enough class, they're not learning anything, they are clearly learning stuff here. And they were learning stuff last year too. But we got a whole entire class episode. And I appreciate that a whole lot because that's the college experience. And I think in the midst of the drama and the hijinks and the fun, we are getting the real HBCU experience this season. Honestly, even more so than last season. And we love to see it. And I'm excited for next week's episode. But outside of that, that is it for me. That is the College Hill Season 2, Episode 4 review. Make sure to follow HBCU Pulse on Instagram and YouTube at HBCU Pulse, Twitter and TikTok, the HBCU Pulse. Make sure to listen to HBCU Pulse Radio on SiriusXM, channel 142, HBCU, every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central. If you want to donate to HBCU Pulse, donate any amount to $HBCU Pulse or paypal.me/HBCU Pulse. And I will see you on the other side, and I'll catch you in the next video where we're talking about all things College Hill.